I'm a partner in the Goldenbach Law Firm, and it's my pleasure to introduce Donna Danielewsky. She's going to speak about making your website accessible to people with disabilities. That is sort of an out-of-the-box topic, but if you think about it, it's exactly in line with what today's general topic has been. That is an opportunity and a challenge for everybody here, service providers and operators. We are among the most active law firm in the country in the hospitality space, and we have seen countless lawsuits on website accessibility, and that's a fraction of the hundreds that have been filed just this year in federal courts. We don't know how these issues will get resolved. We know as business people that this is the wrong way to resolve issues, but we don't know what the courts will do, whether they will let these lawsuits mature and go all the way through. We had thought with the prior administration there would be resolution by the Department of Justice. This Department of Justice has at best backburnered the issue. We think we can all guess what the Trump administration would do, but I would say I don't think we can, but we can bet. The betting line is they will do nothing about it. So the resolution will be either in courts, and we plan to help our clients completely avoid this problem, or the resolution will be with people like Donna's advice. She's the director of the Carl and Ruth Shapiro Family National Center for Accessibility Media. They are a collaborative organization that works with public sector and corporate clients and partners to address the challenges of accessibility across the board with a special focus on new media. They work with tech industry leaders, educational leaders, publishers, and all levels, federal, state, and local government. Donna's been a leader in that organization since 2008, and she's going to make us all feel better about this quandary product and issue today. Thank you.
I'm going to speak from over here at the podium. Can everyone hear me? Can people in the back hear me? Yeah. Okay. Look, and I made silence. That was actually a good segue for me a little bit, because while we talk about disabilities, we often talk about, people think about people who are blind and people who are deaf, and you go sort of all severe one way, but really what you just experienced was what we call in our industry temporary disability. Everyone in this room for that period of time was struggling to hear, struggling to filter out background noise, and that's any kind of a temporary disability where you didn't expect to sort of lose a sense right there. So that was your lesson, and now it's past. Thank you for having me today. As was mentioned, my name is Donna Danielewsky. I'm the director of the Carl and Ruth Shapiro National Center for Accessible Media at WGBH. It's the same WGBH that you know from your television, from Masterpiece. We've got any Downton Abbey fans. Nova, American Experience, Antiques Roadshow, all of those shows are produced in our building. So it may not immediately make sense why accessibility is also done in our building, and that's because closed captioning was invented at WGBH in the 1970s. Originally funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to help make educational media, especially for children, accessible to everyone. That first research was done in our building, and for those of you who are foodies, of which we might have a few here, here's a piece of cocktail trivia for you. The first show that aired on television with captions was Julia Child's The French Chef. I think it was 1974 was when we did those. Captioning was invented at WGBH in the 70s, and audio description was invented at WGBH in the 90s. In 1991, our unit was formed, which is the National Center for Accessible Media, which took those pioneering technologies, that pioneering work, and started applying it to other places that media was appearing where people with disabilities were being left behind. The growth of the internet, of streaming media, of mobile devices, of tablets, of phones, etc. So that's where our work is. NCAM is a founding member of the W3C. We helped to write the Section 508 guidelines. So standards and guidelines are where we have our expertise, and what we do in our consulting business, as was mentioned, is work with all different kinds of partners across all different industries to help ensure that your offerings, whether it's hardware, software, content, video, any technology, anything you're offering is available to everyone. So, let me see if so many of you are facing, as you know, you've heard, there's issues with lawsuits, with rising litigation. There are some other reasons. Why is it important to make your website accessible? Making your website accessible to people with disabilities, and I'll talk more about what that means in a moment, ensures that your offerings, whether it's your, your whole team of assets, all of your restaurants, or your single restaurant, are available to as many people as possible. They can access, they can find out where they want to go, they can, book reservations, they can do all the things that everybody could do on your website. Universal access, designing with universal access or designing for everybody helps make your offerings available to as many people as possible. That's what we were saying earlier with designing for mobile, designing for tablet. It's the same with adding in, thinking about accessibility. There's a market advantage to doing so. You're, I don't want to suggest there are baby boomers in this audience, there might be, but baby boomers are aging into age-related disabilities, some hearing loss, some vision issues, all of those for a population that's very comfortable with technology and using technology are going to lead to greater needs in this area. And obviously the reason that many of you heard about is making changes to your website to ensure that it's accessible with disabilities helps to manage your risk, against legal complaints, against litigation, and as well as any individual complaints that you might be dealing with. The other thing that you're seeing is you're seeing a growing demand by customers for, they're speaking up more, they're demanding more things. You see it in two places. You see it obviously at the individual level, but also with organizations having tighter compliance rules. As large groups are planning social functions or business meetings at venues, they're asking more questions about, are they accessible? Can we, there's different regulations there, and we want you to be able to meet those needs. So as I was saying to someone with whom I was speaking earlier, civilians outside of the restaurant world, when we're planning to go to eat, we just do a few obvious things, You're searching online for an appropriate venue or restaurant if you're gonna have an event or just go out to dinner. You might check the website for hours, for prices, for directions, review menus online if possible, make reservations online if possible, and maybe enable driving directions. Those are all things that are sort of common now, as you know, that you're doing from your mobile phone. That's something that's at your fingertips. If you're someone with a disability, either a temporary disability due to an injury or a longer-term disability that's either vision loss or you're using assistive technology like a screen reader, you want to still be able to do those things. Can you, without using a mouse and only using tabbing and a keyboard, which is one of the requirements for accessibility, can you still tab through a website? Can you click and find the location? Can you make a reservation? Can you click on the menu? If you can open the menu, does your screen reader read the menu, or is the menu just an image? Is it a PDF image that can be read by a screen reader? Those are all places where there's blockades for people with disabilities. And as I mentioned, that at an individual level, if it's too hard to bridge those gaps, to get through those barriers, I'm just going to go away from the website and find someone else who can help me. But more importantly, if I'm planning a large conference or an event or a work-related event, and I know that I've got to make it accessible to my employees or to attendees with disabilities, I'm also going to go away. So you have to think about, the revenue aspects. I'll talk a little bit more about the regulation and about what it means to make a site accessible, but just from a money point of view, think about it this way. In 2015, more than 26 million people traveled for business or pleasure, taking more than 73 million individual trips and spending more than $17 billion. Now that's in hotel and food. $17 billion. And people with disabilities don't always travel alone. Many of them are independent and travel alone fine, but if not, they're traveling with a companion or someone else. That's an economic impact of over $35 billion from people with disabilities alone. So I know it feels like, people use words like, nuisance suits and all those issues, but this is a part of in the same way that you're catering or you're thinking about customers with food allergies, this is another group of your customers who's just growing. This group is growing and they're spending money and you want to be there to get it. Besides, as was mentioned, any of the legal issues. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with how people with disabilities might use technology or use a computer, but when you're designing a website, there's ways that you can design it in the same way that you make color choices with anything that you design. If it's color choices, if it's other elements of your design that are about the look and feel of your website and the functionality, there's things that you can think about that help make it better to be accessible for people with disabilities. I mentioned earlier keyboard access. It's also things that you can do, tools I can give you today that are free, about free color contrast checkers so that you can meet the appropriate guidelines for contrast so that people with different types of color blindness can still see everything appropriately on your site. It's about making sure that the navigation works properly. People who use screen readers, whether they're using them because they have vision loss or for other cognitive issues or processing issues, are tabbing through, and that screen reader is reading the text of the page. It's not reading what it sees, it's reading from the code behind the page. Careful coding of your website with a developer who knows how to do it can make sure that that all works and that everybody can use it. The same is true with any of the functionality on there. If you're using drop-down menus, you want those to be accessible, appropriate tagging of your file, your form fields, all of those places are places where you can make the right decision about how to design so that everybody can use your site. It makes it easier to use on mobile also. So even if you have the best intentions and you say, okay, great, help me, I want to learn, and we can help look at your site, a typical engagement looks like, we help look at your site, we do evaluation using visual cues, looking at it and seeing some things about layout and color contrast, using some checkers. And then we also do some testing with tools used by people with disabilities, screen readers, screen magnifiers, code checkers, and see how it passes those tests. Can someone navigate? If they can navigate through the whole website but then not make a reservation, again, some of these issues will crop up as a result of it. You heard earlier, all of the different technologies that are being used now to do reservations, to do seating, to do whatever functionality a site needs, all of those pieces need to be accessible as well. And we can work on that with you and or help train your vendors to do the same. So the most important thing that we want you to think about is partnering with someone, whether it's us or someone like us, to think about how to best design for accessibility with your website. Test it so that you can know how it might get used by people who are using assistive technology, who are using mobile devices, who are using any other third-party tools to access your site. And then do a few things. Work to make the modifications that are necessary with a developer that we can help you with, or train your developers. And also there's a few other risk mitigation pieces that are worth doing, thinking about an accessibility statement on your site, thinking about some other communication techniques so that you're ready to answer questions about this as well. So the most important thing I want to tell you today is we're seeing the pain that you're going through, we're there to help and advise. The most important thing is to help get you out of a risk situation and help educate you and the people to whom you're paying money, the vendors, the developers, so that they can help manage your risk also. I think, is that it? Okay, sorry, I was getting the sign. I hope to take questions so I can